Today we're going to be doing a little bit of multi techniques, doing the pointillism, which we haven't done yet, which is the dot pattern like this. You're just taking, which we're going to use a Micron pen today, and doing dots, and you can get them as dense as this or farther apart like this. And then you just add to the drawing. So we're not going to only do a pointillism today. We're going to do pointillism with some line work, some cross-hatching, some maybe just minimally putting in the line drawing and adding a little bit of each technique. And you can keep things simple. You don't have to get them super complicated. You can use the combination of the pencil shading with the Micron pen, so we can do a little bit of both. I think that could be really successful, and I think we should try that today. So before we start, my name's Lex, and I'd like it if you could subscribe and hit the bell so you would know when we're having a lesson, which it's drawing on Thursdays. I do beginning drawing on Thursdays, and I do painting on Mondays. Now Monday, my painting is a more developed painting where I'm doing my own work, but I always explain what I'm doing when I'm mixing a color or what technique I might be using. I do watercolors, acrylics, gouache. I can also do mixed media probably on a Monday. I could do it on a Thursday as well. So it's beginning drawing on Thursdays, and as I said, Mondays, it's sort of like my own thing going on, but I do a tutorial through the whole entire process. So let's get started. We'll do the drawing of the shell and the really lovely little starfish, and it's a practice for you and me, where we're just doing, as I said, line work, bringing in when we did the cross-hatching, and doing pointillism. Okay, so I'm going to just start off with a really light line drawing. So I'm going to do this like more of a profile and put that little guy right there. So the reason the profile looks really neat is that it sticks out further and has a really good look. So all we're doing is looking for shape. So in this way we have a little bit of a triangle, and then I'll add like the oval. I always do ovals because ovals take a lot of almost everything is an oval, and many especially natural things. So here's another oval, and then it comes out like this. So we already have the shell by just doing those shapes, and it helps when you're drawing to look for things that are easier to understand. So I'm going to just follow this around what we just did. This piece pops out a little bit, goes back in, and a little bit of a point, and then it goes up. So that accomplishes that. So now you already have the shape in, and it doesn't take you the frustration of trying to get everything in by not doing the shapes. So I do it like that. I've been drawing and painting for like, I don't know, almost 40 years, and I still draw like this and paint like this, where I look for shapes. It just gets things done quicker. So what I do is, on this case, I will just erase the ones that don't matter after you do all that, and then you have your drawing. Oops. And just like, oops. Bring that down a little bit, so we have that little ridge there, and any little thing that can define it but still make it look interesting. There's no like straight lines in nature, so you're not really looking for that. So okay, so this guy, he's a little bit closer to the viewer, so let's put him like this. And again, we can mix the pencil, and if I brought out watercolor pencils, we could do that too, but that'll be another day. Or we incorporate color with line work. You could do watercolors, you could do gouache with Micron pen. So it's up to you, and it's really good practice to do multimedia, which multimedia meaning the watercolor pencil and Micron pen, or watercolor pencil and watercolors, or watercolors with Micron pen, or just nothing, just using them the way they are, like whatever you're picking. You don't have to do the multimedia. Okay, so now I'm establishing also my shadows while I'm at it. So some of these have like double shadows, where the light source, because I have 3 lights on, throws off more than one shadow, so it kind of looks a little weird right now. Now I'm going to take out the Micron pen. It's a really thin pen. You can see how thin the pen is, and I'll outline the entire drawing. So that just adds another texture. This has like those little ridges, so I'm just gonna go, I went up a little bit and down, and then comes out, and again, comes little ridges, and then it sits over here. This point comes like here. So I wanna make sure I don't get too carried away with this piece right here, because this is really important, that little pointy area, that I don't neglect how that actually goes. Let's see. I just wanted to make sure I got that, because right now I'm making it committed by putting in the Micron pen. The Micron pen is not going to be erased, so with the pencil, if I made a commitment to a line and didn't like it, I could always take it out. Okay, so these little points come all in a row like this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw that little circle and follow, that was a semicircle, and follow these little shapes all the way down. So now I have that. Just make like a little, this comes like that, like this, and that comes like that. Okay, so now I have that ridge effect. Let me just put him in, just follow his legs. Then they're pretty thin and long, so let's see, I have that long enough and thin enough. Okay. Oops. Let me just bring that in. I didn't bring that in. It's enough. I made a little bit of a mistake there, but we'll take care of that. It'll just be absorbed right in the drawing. So that's a good thing now that I did that little mistake there. In this case, you get creative with that. So I need a shadow anyhow there, so let me just do some cross-hatching right on that. See, so that absorbs right into the drawing. And I needed that anyhow with the shadow. And see the lines still in here. Let's just do the dots that are going to make up that, and we'll follow that line, and the line will be absorbed right into the drawing. It's just having a security of knowing, oh, I can do this to that and make it art, you know. So sometimes when I was younger, teacher would just make all these little shapes and you'd have to make a drawing out of it, and it was actually more fascinating for her to make a random shape and what would I see in it. And that's what I do with like something like that, where I got a little carried away and made that commitment to that line drawing by going too quickly, because I'm trying to expedite the lesson with you know, and just should have slowed down a little bit because we're not in a rush. But anyhow, that was a good thing to show you, was that you can use mismanaged line work there to use what you have to make it part of the drawing. So you can see I'm just putting this little, this would be considered pointillism, even though they're further away. You're still using a dot pattern to define the space. So yeah, it's not exactly the pointillism that you see in like a really some drawings. You could go and check it out and they're like amazingly done, and they would take hours and hours and hours to do a really intense drawing like that. But this is just an exercise for you to practice your pointillism and your line work in it. So okay, so we actually got the beginning of our starfish, and it has that nice lightness with the dot pattern, which we can still consider pointillism on this, okay, in this case. All right, so let's do some work with the lines on the shell by just following really thin lines and following around. Now when you're doing something like a shell, you want to bend the line. You don't want to do a straight line. You want to bend the line so it goes around, and that helps. So you're just like sort of taking it, let me get a piece of paper and show you. You would take the line and just bend it like this around, okay? So you're just bending it like that, opposed to going like that. So if the shell is going like that, you're following the shape, so the line work looks better. Okay, so we're just gonna do this. that just adds to the texture of the drawing. Okay, because this is a little bit more dense right towards this tip, and you can see it gets lighter as we go. So in this one too, it sort of comes those little ridges, so we're gonna make that line a little bit thicker right there. Follow this right here. And I think on this drawing we're gonna leave more of a minimalistic look to it. I think it could look good by not getting too overworked with it. Okay, so, and this little ridge comes like this. Okay, so we have that, and let's do, there's these little tiny marks, so let's just lightly take this side of the pen. Let's see if I can get this to go. Okay, and just like do it. See how you can see how I skipped a little bit? So now I'm gonna, you don't have to necessarily use the pen on the entire drawing. You could split the lines up, because that's how it looks on the actual shell. Okay. The same thing is kind of going on here too. I'm gonna draw like that, and I'll skip some space. And I'm spreading the line out too. See how dense it is, and I'm spreading the line out a little bit. And that's why I was saying we could do a more of a minimalistic look where we're putting in the texture, but we're not getting it overly complicated. Let's see if we could do like that. Okay, so those two pieces right there, I need to get a little bit more detail on here. There was a little bit more line work on these pieces here. So we could do that. And let's just bend this like that. And it's just like looking for ways of accomplishing what you want to do. In this case, we're just following the lines. And let's see, that kind of ends right there. And then there's just some minor ones that come like that. Okay. Okay. So on this side, I kind of want a shadow, so I'm going to do some light pen work on this, but keep it really kind of tight, right like that. Same here, just come up like here. And then end it, so, and then you could do it like a little bit like that. So that's giving the shadow, and it bends the piece. You understand that that goes like that. And let's follow this around like that too. My dog is really snoring away. And so this is doing a bit of cross hatching because the line was already underneath it. So I guess you could count that as a tiny bit of cross hatching, even though our line work is just basically going over what is already there. So let's just bring this down like that. So now it starts to bend the shell a little bit, and I think that looks good by doing that. Let's do it like a little bit of pointillism on this. So I'm just going to follow this pattern like this a little bit right there. And that sort of adds a lightness to it, but a nice texture. And I kind of want this to go like a little bit more dense on this edge. So I'm just going to follow this around like this. Okay, same here. I think that looks good to add the pointillism for the lightness of that. And we have some shadow on this side, so let's just do some light line work coming this direction. And that will add the sort of shadow gray look on that side of the shell. And I'm going to keep the lines really kind of thin and simple. And I'm just going to follow this all the way around the edge. Okay. Alright, so we'll leave that like that for now because we don't want to overdo one thing and leave this one not done. Remember, I left some of that pen work because I was trying to disguise some of that. So let's finish some of this, the shadow. Okay, so I have the shadow committed to this already, so I'm going to do that. Kind of like spread some of the lines out a little bit. So we have the line work, but yet it's spread out in some areas so that it looks still a little bit light. And because it gets dark like right in the end of that, I can kind of go like this, right in the center of that shadow. I'm going to crosshatch, and it'll look like it's even darker in the center. So we accomplished two things: that shadow blows out a little bit more, and by doing the crosshatching in there, it tightens it and it makes it look a little darker. And I think I'll go in the opposite direction of that and get that even darker looking. Okay, so there's that. This is a much darker shadow on this side of this little leg, and so we'll come this way and crosshatch it going the other way. And I think I'll bring the line a little bit longer out on that one. So what that does is it shows that the shadow extends. Okay, let's just do some light pieces right in here. You're just looking for all the details that you can see and accomplish. Now this shadow kind of blows up on both sides of this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the line work on here. You can turn the paper around too if it makes it easier. You don't have to keep the paper in one direction. I'm just going to finish here and turn the paper around. Okay, same here. And just bring that all the way up to the top. I think that looks good. Now I kind of think where the shadow gets a little bit busy underneath here, we should bring that darkness right in here. Okay, and same here, crosshatch it back and forth like that. Yeah, looks good. Now the mistake I made there, I need to sort of clean up a little bit. The lines I should have been a little bit thinner on those lines. I got a little carried away, but that's okay because we have to put the shadow in anyhow, and I can lighten these lines as I go. Okay, there. And I'm going to come over here and put more shadows in here. Just bring this all the way down like to the end. So that's good. This is all really good practice for what we're trying to accomplish, which is, I'm going to move the paper around. What we're trying to accomplish, which is just learning how to use the different techniques. So I'm just going to do a light shadow coming on this side. These have multiple shadows coming because of my light source, so I'm just going to continue them on the other side of each other. Plus it looks interesting. Okay. And then just, in this case, I think I'll do the cross-hatching on this side. Now that gives that little, there. Alright, so that's in. I need to darken this line work on this, and I'm going to bring it in a little bit. So I'm darkening the line work on this side. It just adds a little bit of interest to it as well. And it's bringing it up into the drawing. And kind of like incorporating the little dots into it too, so it adds to the texture of the starfish. I'm always looking for something to make the drawing look interesting too. You kind of want to do that. It needed the different look too, the lightness, the darkness. It's very busy with what's going on with the cross-hatching and the pointillism. So by adding the darkness to it, I think that helps too. Okay. See how that little came into there. I think it changed the whole look by doing that. Just finish this over here. Bring this into here. And you know that mistake line, I think I'm gonna incorporate that into the darkness. And make this like little, there. Oops. That way I'm not really overworking the starfish by bringing these textures in here. The starfish still looks really light, not only in the color but also in the effect of the starfish. Okay. So by doing this sort of more of a jagged edge on this too, it lifts up the starfish too. So I'm gonna do some more line work right in there. So I think this needs a little bit more detail with the pointillism on it. So let's add to that pattern. We put the larger dots in there, and I think that helped to start with it, but I think adding these little tinier dots will give it extra interest. Practice. I mean, it's essentially what we're doing is just a lot of practicing. Now this is going to help bend the starfish too, where it makes it feel like it goes on either side too, so that helps. Kind of gets busy in the center here, a little bit of more intensity going on there. Okay. Right, so let's leave that alone for a minute and move on to, because I still see, let me just finish this, I might as well. I like to try to finish the drawing like all over and not just in one space, so I'll leave that alone for now. Let's put the shadow in here. So this is sticking up more, so the shadow would be like down here more. We would put the shadow coming this way. Even though the point is there, we could just bring it out like this. So what we're doing by not putting the shadow over here is we're lifting up the shell. You can tell by it's sitting on the table now by the way we place the shadow. So the shadow comes actually more out here, so let's move a little bit more of that out here. And it can come right against our starfish. Okay, that's why I wanted to work on the whole drawing and not just the starfish, because by putting all the drawing together all simultaneously, you're not going to overwork something and say, oh gosh, you know, that's not really what I want it to do. Again, this is all practice, but it still does act nicely if you you know, work on it at the same time and practice that. So I'm just going to take out some of these extra lines, and I think it'll help define what the shell space is, the space the shell is taking up. Okay, just get rid of this. Okay, I usually have a paintbrush over here to move this off so you're not smudging your hand. By doing this, you're putting the oils of your hands onto the drawing. Okay, let's straighten up some of the lines that we did here. Let's just get a little bit neater with some of the lines going this way and get that cross hatching going. That looks good, I think. Same here, just come all the way down. You know, we'll practice. Okay, so that's in. Let's just do some, instead of getting really dark with this, maybe we would just define these lines more so it brings the ridges up a little bit higher, and you know that spins by just doing that. So these are just little, again, another techniques is just darkening the lines that we already have, and it spins them around, and maybe just maybe putting some pointillism in there on just the edges, like right here, so it doesn't get too busy. I still want the shell to look light, you know, not too dark, because in being more simplistic, I think it'll look good. So I'm just doing the pointillism on the edges here, and follow that. And maybe right here we'll get a little bit more busy with pointillism right there. And anything where something turns, that it helps to add to the shadow. Okay. Max is really snoring. Okay, so let's do a little bit of the cross hatching here, and I'm just going to come lightly up on just the outer edges of this line like that. Okay. And on just the bottom, not the top, I'm going to darken the edges. By leaving the top more underworked, it'll make it look lighter. Okay, so just do some more of the cross hatching on this side. And go really slowly to do the cross hatching, because you don't get too carried away like I did with that line work over on the other one, and just come across like this. Okay, so I'm going to leave that alone for now. I do need some more shading on this side like this, but we can also do pointillism with that. Like, get these. You can turn the paper too, instead of having to make your hand do that. Just take your paper and turn it upside down, and just, if you need to do the actual work like that, and it makes it easier. Okay, so now we have that. So I'm going to outline this quite a bit more. Just do this. So you can see I'm just doing some fill work here where I want it really dark underneath there. And then we'll do the cross hatching on that. So just on that. So now I need this to be darker, so I'm going to cross hatch right up to that. And with the pointillism underneath it, where we already have the dot pattern, I think that will look good right there. Okay, so we can actually bring this line work over to here. So you're just practicing. See the difference between here and this line work? This is much thicker and darker. You want that because this is defining the shadow. So, and I'm still trying to make this appear lighter. So, and we're gonna bring this right up to here. And when we get to here, it gets really dark. So I'm gonna put the cross hatching really dark when we get to that area. So just do your, okay, and then just some light line work like this. So that's good. I think that helps define that. Just do some more dot patterns on this guy. So definitely the starfish is going to be much, more the pointillism on the starfish, a little bit more on the shell, but I think the shell works well just having our cross hatching going on there. So at least one takes on that. There is some pointillism on this one, but yeah, we'll use cross hatching on inline work on the shell. It's an interesting balance of keeping something looking really whiter and lighter than when you have to do all the pen work on it and not get too busy, because your fine balance of you want to get the line work in there, but you want it still to remain light and not too dark, because doing a lot of cross hatching is going to make it look darker. But it's fun though. I mean, doing nice line work is always nice. Alright. Okay, almost there. Just a little bit more work on the starfish. I think we need some shadowing right here, so I'm just going to do some light sidelines. Oops. Come time to come around like this and still do some more line work to define this area. This has some like defined like lines in it. Let's try to put some of those in there. And then I think it's pretty much gonna finish up once I put those little extra lines in. And just put some of the shadows on this side here. I think I might do a little bit of light line work on that. It's hard not to do some of the extra line work, but it's good practice. Yeah, that's good. So you can see that now it's getting, the points are sticking out more. You feel that is more intense that way. Need to shadow on this side. So you got a little bit too crazy with some of the larger lines. You want to keep your lines kind of smaller. That's okay, because it'll give me my dark up there. I can fill that in. That's what's good about knowing how to do different pen work, because you can fix anything. Okay. I think I want to do the same thing going up here, so it really shows off the difference in the little pieces in the back. So you could keep just turning your paper around. It does help to turn the paper around and move it around. Let's see. That looks good. All right, so we're almost there. Do some more light pointillism on the starfish. Really does lend for the pointillism. I don't really want to do any line work on the starfish itself. I think the pointillism is perfect for it. And just kind of follow the edges, and you can actually make the pattern that comes down it a little bit bigger dot. Just gonna cross hatch a little bit there and tidy up the little spot. And there's a little bit of shadow coming this way, so let's just bring that out. Okay. This over here like this. And it's just again, knowing when to stop and what is still needed. Like these things were bending, so I just need to bend the shell. Okay, so we're finishing up. We're just going to go around and look around the whole entire drawing to see what we need to finish, what needs a little extra attention, like what I'm doing now. I'm just doing some cross-hatching on areas that could use like extra shading. Plus, the cross-hatching does tie up for a better look too. All right. Area here, so it looks like it comes down further. It needs some attention. In the really nice line work of cross hatching, like on this edge, is due in part to how nice the Micron pen works. Again, you could do this with a regular ballpoint pen or a pencil if that's all you had. You could still pull all this line work off with that. The Micron pen is just really good for a great deal amounts of detail. I think I made the line work here a little bit too thick, but going back over with nice thinner line work I think lightens it. Alright, still have to do on the edge here. Okay. Almost there. I just think it looks nice to take your time and go around and to finish up things instead of just like ending it when you had a little bit more time to put in. So, okay. I think maybe just a little bit work on the point. I think the rest of it looks pretty good. I think I might just also put a little bit of line work on here so that the two tie in together. So just do, right, some just sideways line work like that. Yeah. Okay, do these little, okay. All right, I'd say we're done. At least for now. It's a good start for doing line work. You can always keep going back and looking for things to do, especially with something like a shell that's as detailed as the shell we decided to do. The starfish pretty much could be left the way it is, but you know, you're always looking with especially line work to make it a more complicated, I think. At least for me, I'm always trying to complicate things where I could just leave them alone and I think they look good the way they are. Again, this is our practicing instead of using just lines of dots and practicing the line work. It's nice to do an actual drawing and you finish it. So I think it's good. So thanks for coming to class. See you next Thursday. Mondays I do the painting as I mentioned before, and Thursdays we do drawing, and sometimes we'll do a mixed media too as well. Thanks. Bye.